Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to Urgent Spotlight. My name is Azrul Khalib. This is a series of online talk shows where we will be covering how the various policies and actions implemented during this period of crisis have impacted today's urgent issues related to women, workers' welfare, students, the urban poor, refugees, education, indigenous people, migrants, and healthcare. The agenda for Urgent Spotlight is policy reform and holding the government, policy and decision makers, and yes, even the public accountable. We are broadcasting live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. via the CSO Platform for Reforms Facebook page. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 crisis has exerted a severe toll on Malaysia's education system. Millions of students are now waiting for the day for which they will start their arguably first day of school in this COVID-19 era. Today is the last day of the Conditional Movement Control Order, or CMCO, and we are about to enter the Recovery Movement Control Order, or RMCO. School is going to be open soon, but it will be very limited to those in secondary school having major exams this year and governed by the new behaviors and practices in this tough time. Gaps and cracks have started to emerge which test the resiliency of our education system. It has forced teachers, students, and even parents to innovate, reinvent themselves to ensure that they don't miss out on education. Parents are forced to dig out dusty textbooks and scratch their heads trying to understand long forgotten lessons and additional mathematics, chemistry, biology, and even pendidikan agama in an effort to educate their kids who are missing out in school. The reason for the gaps which have emerged can be traced back to the long time politicking of the education system, misuse of resources, the struggling commitment to ensure that we have adequate and skilled teachers, principals, and to meet the needs and requirements of students in a challenging period. The pandemic has also created new opportunities in e-learning, some of which we have started to see where there are more and more students using computers, notebooks, and smartphones to obtain their education and to be able to interact with their teachers and fellow students. However, recent statistics have shown that only 40% of students are actually benefiting from what has been introduced to cope with a period of restricted movement and house quarantine. It is something of a question that we now have to ask ourselves as to whether families, students who come from families with low income, children who are orang asal, for example, are being left behind in this period in which we are trying to protect ourselves from infection of COVID-19. So now we come to the question, where have all the students gone? Have we left any behind? And where is our education system ultimately heading to? To help answer these questions and to provide some insight into what is happening today on these issues, we have with us this evening Datuk Look Yim Pheng. Datuk Look commenced her career in education back in 1978 and was seconded to the Public Service Department of Malaysia back in 2004. She is very well known for her role as both the Secretary General of the National Union of the Teaching Profession, NUTP, as well as the Secretary General of the Congress of Unions of Employees in the Public and Civil Services, or QPACs. Datuk Look is also the coordinator of the Women's Network in EI's Asia Pacific region. She is a commissioner in the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia. She is a strong advocate and champion of issues which affect education, women, teachers, and civil servants. Datuk, welcome to this evening show.
Welcome. Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
So for viewers out there, please don't hesitate to send your questions on the Facebook channel, and we will try to get your questions answered by Datuk here. So Datuk, let's start, shall we? First question to you. You've been in the education sector for a very long time. You've gone through the different crises that the country has gone through, whether it's socio-economic, economic, and now we have a health crisis due to this coronavirus. How do you think the COVID-19 crisis has affected the education system in Malaysia?
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Commerce for inviting me for this weekly talk show. Today, I take this opportunity to share my observation, my experiences in the education sector where I served for 38 years. And as we know that the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC, states that all children should have the right to be in school. We look at this whole, how COVID-19 crisis affected the education system in Malaysia. The pandemic had made the equity gap in education wider. This is very worrying. It affects students in the rural area and the students in the urban area, especially the urban poor. During the MCO or CMCO, some children will not think of education. They will not even think of education, but survival. Food, shelter, money, and all that. And their parents may lose their job, no money, pay rental, no money for food. And of course, the low socioeconomic group will not have the privilege like the other children with smartphones, e-learning. And of course, we can see that we also realize that physical and mentally handicapped students affected. And through my observation, we realize that even parents that handling physical and mentally handicapped children feel that it's a burden, and because they need to deal with them 24 hours throughout the days and every day. So, of course, besides that, we look at the vulnerable groups most affected also, like the orang asal, then the women, the children, and all that. That is what we see in the effect of COVID-19. And another thing that we realize that COVID-19 also affected quality education in the school. Students miss lessons in the school, not able to socialize. What I mean socialize, they're not able to meet friends, not able to talk to the teacher face to face, and also with the friends, especially children to children, you know. And the most important thing is that the effect is lack of human touch. What I mean human touch is not to touch each other, but human being, they need to talk to each other face to face. The natural there, and talking to each other, communicating with each other. You are able to have the space to talk to express yourself with the type of body language and all that. This is very important, and all this will affect them psychologically and emotionally. And some children even complain to their parents that they have nobody to talk to. They are alone in the house. Maybe they are, the brother, sister are younger than them, or they are more grown up and adults than them, so they are left alone. So they need to talk to friends. I mean, this is some of my observation, and also we realize that now 2 hours per day contact time, limited knowledge sharing. Even though the teachers, not able, can go online, but you're only limited to 2 hours. You got so many subjects. How can you teach all those subjects within the 2 hours, the contact hour there? And visual learning, of course, based on the survey done by MOE, among the 900,000 students, 36.9% affected no access to an electronic device for e-learning purpose. So another 6% from 670,000 have access to a personal computer only. That shows that we have 5 million children in the country. 6% and 36.9% affected, and the 6% are able to have a personal computer. I think this is something that of our concern, very serious concern. Of course, parents got to take over the role of teachers. Some, they may not have the skill to guide their children, because teaching and learning in the classrooms are all those trained teachers. And of course, in the house, at home, sometimes you don't have certain facilities and not conducive enough, especially you mentioned about those low-income groups. They don't even have space to sit at times. And of course, teachers unable to reach out to the students also at times because of connectivity. But the pandemic had forced children to learn up e-learning and have to learn how to adjust and adopt to visual educations. Of course, however, the most important thing is that even though what happened today, we can have e-learning, we can have virtual learning, but we cannot replace all these tools with a teacher as a human being representing the teacher in the classrooms. And that is important.
So, Datuk, you've mentioned quite a number of areas that have been affected due to the COVID-19 outbreak, and certainly there is a large amount of worry amongst those who are working in education, especially educators themselves, teachers, as you mentioned, that there has been, as a result of this 2 months, gaps in the learning, the ability to catch up, but also there has been quite a large amount of silence on a number of people who we have not heard from. I think one of the groups you mentioned was just now in your intervention was disabled children. Yes. And certainly we have not heard really, even from the adults themselves, how the disabled community is experiencing this COVID-19 crisis, and even more so for the children who are needing to attend special schools, special classes, but also needing educators that they know personally to be able to provide them the level of education that they should be able to receive. So are disabled children one of those people who we really need to look in this post-CMCO period about trying to figure out whether they've been left behind while everybody else is with the new technologies and with the tools and instruments which help abled children, but they themselves may not have been well equipped to address or to deal with this period of crisis. What do you think, Datuk?
Yeah, of course, I agree that, as I mentioned just now, physically and mentally handicapped students, the disabled children, maybe only schools has all those facilities. At home, you not have the special facilities there, and maybe even some parents cannot afford to buy those facilities, especially for these disability children. So it is quite costly. So definitely it will burden the parents, and also based on what I have read to some of those parents expressed in the Facebook and all that, regarding children, that it is quite taxing for them and quite a lot of, taxing to deal with children like this, because you need trained teachers, specialized teachers to deal with this group of children, especially to educate them, to disseminate information, to sharing of knowledge, how to train these children to use, now all these smartphones, these apps, or they have special apps for them. So it is only with that kind of professional skills the teachers have enabled them to do it. So now they are unable to go to school. Definitely the gaps will be wider and wider for this group of children, and they're going to lose out in education. So we really hope that the Ministry of Education will also look at this group of children. They shouldn't be left out. See?
Well, definitely the points that you mentioned, especially dealing with special needs children as well, likely that the ministries involved must make dealing with students coming from these communities a priority in this period of recovery. But you mentioned just now also parents, I think, and I think one of the things that we have seen is that I think there's more appreciation for teachers. It used to be quite easy. You dropped off your kid at school, you subcontract the work of educating your child to a teacher, and suddenly when you have this period where everybody is stuck at home, parents have to educate and take over the role of teacher to their kids, and suddenly they're not finding it as easy as they thought it would be. So would you say that there's more appreciation for teachers post MCO?
Appreciation, I would say that I look at it this way, because as parents in the house, having an opportunity to understand how teaching and learning process during this MCO time or CMCO time, then the parents will understand how a teacher got to handle not only one student in the classroom, not only one child, but sometimes in the classroom you have 20 to 50 children in the classroom. She has to handle alone. You can imagine how she got her ability to handle that number of children there. So this is something that the parents should understand. So sometimes I hope that when parents go to school, when there is when there is some complaint, if they are not happy over certain things, I do hope that they can go over to the school and talk it out, have conversation in the school, so that you can solve out certain small problems or complaints there. And of course, if you look at whatever the parents are doing, some are able to, somehow or other, I do get feedbacks that parents find it not, it's quite, it is quite creating that kind of pressure and tension towards teaching a child every day, your child every day at home. It's not easy.
Yeah.
The time span, and then she has to, maybe the parents also has to do their own work, because you got to work from home and also have to spend time with the children. And of course, they will appreciate what the teacher have done. I hope they will appreciate.
Datuk, I definitely hope there's more appreciation and less of angry parents going to school demanding to see, the principal or the teacher who may have upset their child. But one of the things that we know, the COVID-19 crisis has acted as a disruption factor for the education sector, and certainly also other sectors as well. And people are seeing silver linings or opportunities or possibilities which have opened up as a result of this. What kind of positive opportunities or possibilities for reform do you see have emerged as a result of this disruption?
My observation, this has created family living culture within the community. It means, what I'm trying to say, a child stay at home, e-learning, and parents learn to cope with new skills, teaching and learning together with the children in the house, and also they created a better bonding within the families. That is one thing I observe. Another thing is that children learning how to adjust and adopt to the new norm, because not many children will go on e-learning, but now they have no choice, they have to do it. So this is a way to adapt to new norm. And of course, at least with this pandemic, the Ministry of Education will observe, will realize that there are many children that are left out. So because of that, they need to ensure that the line is clear, need to improve connectivity here. Need to improve connectivity to ensure that all children are able to access to internet in any location, especially in the internet area where children are lost out. They cannot enjoy e-learning and other children. As I say, that some children are privileged, they're able to access to e-learning, but not all the children. So schools have to upgrade infrastructures, and they have to have digital device, and all these things we must at this pandemic time, because we realize that this is something, these issues are not the issue of today. This issue we have been talking about it. We are talking about visual learning, visual education. We are talking of connectivity. The most important issue here is the problem of connectivity. If we do not progress with connectivity, we do not upgrade or improve the infrastructures of schools, infrastructure of certain areas at certain locations, especially with connectivity, then I strongly feel that the children will continue losing out, because they will not be able to access. Even though you can have the most advanced apps, you can have the most advanced technology, but if you're not able to access to it, then they will lose out. So I think this is something that happened at this time, where people will be thinking about how to improve, how to progress, to improve the system so that the connectivity will enable to benefit the losing out group of children.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because we hear a lot of politicians and policymakers talking about preparing Malaysians for Industrial Revolution 4.0 and investing in new technologies, innovation, education. But you just highlighted a lot of basics that have been uncovered to be weak during this COVID-19 period. And some of that is so basic, which involves online learning, which requires that students have smartphones and laptop computers. And we have a problem of the gap of there not being enough. You talk about connectivity, but how can you even if you have 4G in rural areas, but if the students themselves don't even have the smartphones or laptops, then there's no point, because you still have that gap. So we have a question from a viewer here, is that how do we help children who don't have access to the internet or computers at all?
Okay, as I mentioned just now about connectivity, this is a serious problem. I should say is that there are two issues here, two problems that we got to solve it. I should say is that got to handle by the government. I should say that to enable children able to access to online learning. First is connectivity. If the school is being upgraded with better connectivity, say the children cannot afford now. I say that in the future, if they cannot afford a smartphone or whatever on the computer, they are able to do it in the classroom or in the school. That is one situation where if the school is able to connect all this internet, access to all these computers and access to internet and access to information, to accessibility have improved, then one way you solve out the problem of school, you're able to do it. The second thing is that, of course, for those groups of children, especially the group of children that can't afford to even have a handphone, then I looked at two situations here. One situation is that the government got to look at, for example, like previously many years ago, Terengganu. The Terengganu government, they have provided iPad for all the children in the classrooms. So why not looking at things like that? Maybe simple apps or simple phone or whatever tools that enable the children to have it at home and use it for online learning. So they should provide them with all this. That is one thing I see that we have to think about it for the future, not only for today.
Well,
what happened in the pandemic today will make us move forward with thinking about how to remedy this problem that we are facing now.
Well, that's a really good entry point for us to provide assistance to a lot of these students who are missing out on online learning simply because they don't have the tools for it. And we have to learn from the experiences of providing such gadgets and instruments to students in the way that it was done previously, so that we can ensure there's no wastage. But we talk about the students, but let's talk about the teachers themselves. I mean, we have a problem of lecturers in university who are barely literate in using the computer. They need a lot of assistance. And yet here we're assuming that teachers at the primary and secondary school levels are able to handle the technology that is given to them, that they are computer literate enough that they can use it, and then to conduct quality lessons to impart their knowledge on students. So is there a capacity gap between teachers at the primary and secondary school levels?
I look at this way. It is not a capacity gap within the secondary school or primary school. It's more of the different groups of teachers there. The senior teachers and the younger group of teachers, the junior teachers. That means those teachers that are of maybe a certain age groups. They have been serving the teaching profession for more than 20 years, 30 years. At that time, they still don't have a virtual education. They don't even have a computer yet, don't even have handphone yet. There are this group of teachers there. And we have group of teachers already accessible to technologies. Digitalization is the era of digitalization, then they got no problem. So this group of senior teachers having problems, sometimes in order to them to cope with using all these new gadgets and all that, they will not be able to cope. So I strongly believe that what we need to do is for them to cope with all this new technology, this new technology device, then teacher must be provided with continuous professional development, where I have mentioned from time to time, they need to have quality capacity buildings, and they got to be refreshing course for them. In-house trainings is not enough to improve the quality of teachers nowadays, because things are changing. Many things are changing. Many new things are coming through technologies, and the teachers got to upgrade themselves and master all these new skills from time to time. And I see that online teaching and online assessment, but phone app, social media apps, all these app, telegrams, Twitter, and WhatsApp video calls, all this Zoom, all this. These are some of the things that now the teachers got to be able to handle, and not all teachers can handle. So if they are unable to handle, how can they have innovative and creative way of doing teaching and learning in the classroom, or
exactly, Datuk.
So these are some of the things we are looking at. And I also still strongly believe that just now, as one of them have posted the question, say that, oh, how can the children cannot afford all those gadgets? I strongly believe But if every individual family can afford a handphone, just a cheap handphone, and if the government can create an app that enable every individual children through the handphone able to access to all these teaching and learning materials, I think it will serve a lot of help to those children. And of course, you have to support, you have to have a support system to pay up all these expenditures cost there.
Well, Datuk, we get very excited often about new technology, and you just said that things are changing. But, there's a lot of things seem to remain the same. And I want to bring up the issue of Sarawak and Sabah. Yeah, the previous government placed a lot of emphasis and investment in trying to improve the educational infrastructure in Sarawak and Sabah. So did the government before that, as well as decades of investment in Malaysia. So, in your opinion, how has the education system in these two states improved or not compared to 10 years ago? How do we from Peninsula to want to be posted in Sarawak and Sabah? Because a lot of what we're talking here today is very much a Peninsula discussion. But in Sabah and Sarawak, it's a different world. There's a lot of gaps and there's a lot of basics that are going unnoticed or neglected. So what's your opinion on where we are in those two states?
And of course, before I go to Sabah and Sarawak, I also want to emphasize here that the role of the teacher in the classroom is also very important. The teacher also hold the key to some form of equity and unity in the classroom. That is very important.
Of course.
Yeah. Of course, talking about Sabah and Sarawak, I think we have been talking about improving the infrastructures, the school infrastructure in Sabah and Sarawak for many years, for the past 10 years, rather slow, but it's still the debate is still on until today is still on. And until today, we're still talking about there are 415 schools considered as critical conditions. And of course, the government have given allocations for Sabah. Sabah, you have 8.5 million, and then I think for Sarawak, you have 350 millions for 2020. But I would urge the various schools and also the education department to act quickly to enable that all these schools, especially the 415 schools, the conditions like collapsed canteen, open air library, chair tables, all in a very deplorable states and a very bad condition. And then all this, there are no proper chairs, no proper tables and chairs, and toilets also are not in good conditions. Things like this is happening, but if the allocation is there, we should act fast so that the children will be able to go to school with a conducive environment in the classrooms. That is one thing I see. Why can't we do it if the allocation is there? So, and one more thing I realized that failure of contracts, this is also very important because I believe that any contracts, they should be, it should go accordingly with transparency and with high integrity when offering contracts to any contractors. And there shouldn't be any interference of politicians there. That is very important. And of course, location of school affecting students also, we realize that is happening in Sabah and Sarawak. Some of the children are staying 20 kilometers away, and the hostel are limited hostel where sometimes the parents say that the area of the school, the hostel are packed and they can't take in any more children, but they are not building extra buildings or any extra rooms for new student coming in. So things like this we have to address. And teachers' quarters also. We realize teachers' quarters also got to improve. I mean, previously also I have received complaints where teachers being sent over there, and sometimes teachers are not willing to serve too long in Sabah Sarawak because they couldn't, when they are sent in the interior area, they don't even have proper house to stay. So, and the most important thing is accessibility to roads. You have to improve all the road systems there, and also, of course, safety there is very important. Then, to close
we have a sharing from a viewer who would like to say that schools in Lawas, Sarawak don't have, almost 80% of students don't have access to computers or handphones. The opinion of the viewer is that there's been no improvement in education in Sarawak, and it's been neglected completely. And what you said earlier just now hinges a lot on investing in infrastructure. Even the roads, the connectivity of roads, of the internet connection and so forth, all goes back to how much is being invested by the different governments in the development of areas that are being left out in Sarawak and Sabah. So let me just continue on here. And this is something that we need to go back to, which is the role of teachers, because teachers being critical in us being able to move forward, to expand and develop and progress in terms of our education system, being able to deliver education, but also ensure that our students meet the needs of the future. So my question is, are our teachers up to it? And now that the government has, we may have a situation where the class sizes are going to be halved to ensure there is distancing between different people, which means that today you have schools that are already in double session. Are we, when it comes to ensuring that the workload of these teachers are able to be matched with the expectations of the system that expects them to be, I think, super teachers, somehow being able to multiply and teach, and yet at the same social distancing norms. So your opinion, Datuk, what are the challenges that are being faced by teachers today in delivering this, and are they up to it?
Well, you're talking about challenges that the teacher got to face. First of all, I just want to express myself regarding being a teacher. I strongly believe that if you want to be a teacher, teacher will be your first choice, not the last choice. That is very important. You have the passion to be a teacher, I think you can resolve a lot of problems there. That's number one. Number two, of course, you're talking about workload and all that. I strongly believe that with the advancement of technology, and now we are going for paperless and all that. I mean, teachers are trying to cope and improve themselves by using all these gadgets to disseminate information and teaching and learning through these new technologies. And this will enable them to cut down their workload. And of course, school leadership is also very important. The different level of school leadership is very important to build resilience within the school itself, that particular organization as a school itself. So if you are able to build that kind of ethos or resilience in the school, then you enable the children to achieve quality education. It all comes from school leadership. We cannot say that, overloaded. Yes, I don't deny the fact, yes, at times teachers are overloaded. But now many exams are being, I should say that now all postponed. There's no more exam. Now there are no more monthly exam. All this, the Ministry of Education do away with so many exams already. So you don't have monthly exam, you don't have mid-year exam. So you have even end of the year also, they have one exam. And I was told that even some schools don't even have the exam. So now the teachers are able to focus and concentrate on teaching and learning in the classroom, have more contact time with the children. So when you have more contact time, so you must show your leadership in dealing with this group of children. So I believe school leadership, not only in the classroom, but the whole organization, including the parents. Parents and teachers associations also play a very important role as a support system to support the school so that their children will benefit from the whole community there. This is important. Example like no gadget and all that, no connectivity. I was talking about no connectivity. It's not no connectivity in the sense that cannot afford. It is because the parents can afford to buy even a smartphone, but that location where you stay, you can't even connect. If you can't connect,
Well,
you can't
Dato',
use anything. That is one situation, for an example.
do you have an
So
opinion on hiring teaching assistants to help teachers? Do you have an opinion on hiring teaching assistants?
Azrul. Teacher assistant is a policy that have been they have a policy on that quite a few years ago. The Ministry of Education also agreed that there should be teachers assistant in the classroom, especially with overcrowded classrooms. I think in Malaysia, most of the classroom, especially urban area, there are certain schools that are overcrowded. There are children even of course, there are some classroom only with 15 children, some with 25, some even with 30, 40, 50 also you have classroom with that number of children. Teachers assistant is a very ideal thing. But the problem is that it costs a huge budget. So until today, the government is, I don't know, I cannot speak on behalf of the government, but my observation is that until today we are still waiting. But I strongly believe my choice of school assistant is better that amount of allocation, the amount of money is transformed and translate into buying gadgets for all these underprivileged children so that they can access to e-learning.
Well, Dato', we're coming to the end of the show this evening. You touched on what has got to be one of the most important issues, which is the money. Now, every year, the Ministry of Education receives the biggest allocation of the national budget. Last year, it was 60.2 billion. This year, it was supposed to be 64.1 billion, but we don't really know how that worked out in the end. So, opportunity to decide where the investments are needed for the next 5 years when it comes to the educational budget. You've mentioned a lot of things this evening, but if you wanted to put your money down to invest and make use of this allocation, where would you put the money?
It is not the allocation. The allocation is given. The most important thing is equal education opportunity for all children.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Azrul?
Well,
I said equal education opportunity for all children, and no children should be left behind. Very important. Regardless whether they have documented or undocumented. I'm talking about documented children. Even the documented children in the interior area, even the urban area, there are some children cannot. I mean, they should be given better facilities so that they can have effective teaching and learning in the classrooms. And of course, I look at the undocumented children. There are some undocumented children they have the right to go to school. Why they are not given the opportunity to go to schools? They are all just left out like that. I think we need to also have a certain allocation, especially for this group of children. If they cannot go to school, create community learning center for them. Let that have the opportunity to go to school with that particular allocations there for them. So I strongly believe that there should be, of course, you have to provide, as I still come back to the same thing, you have to provide better infrastructure to all. Especially now, we are talking about in a school, you have to have better facility, as I said, a better connectivity, and of course, regardless of whether it is a fully aided school or partially aided schools, the allocation, the funding must be fairly distributed to all the schools so that they will get all these allocations so they can improve the school structures, improve the quality of the school. In the schools, there's so many ways they can improve, because if you don't have the allocation, you can't do much, limited access to many things. So these are some of the things is very important to ensure that our children will be able to enjoy quality education in the classroom.
Well, Dato', we come to the end of the program, but I am so glad that you raised the issue of ensuring that no child is left behind and that every child should have the right to obtain an education, whether or not they're a national or non-national, documented or undocumented. Every child should have the right to get an education, and we should be able to facilitate and ensure that becomes a reality. So with that, thank you, Dato', for being our guest for this evening. It has been a total honor having you here with us to share your thoughts on this.
Okay, thank you, Azrul.
Ladies and gentlemen, that ends this evening's segment discussing Malaysian education. Please tune in to the Bahasa broadcast at the same time on Thursday night to continue this conversation with Radin Muhammad Imaduddin. This is Azrul Muhammad Khalib signing off. Good night.